to all viewers who have their opportunity to quiz AAI's ED, Michael Sherlock. Ask him anything you like. And here he is. Hello, Michael. How the devil are you?
I'm good, John. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Yeah, it's your end of the day, isn't it? But it's my quite middle of the morning, so I'm on the water here.
Well, I'm on the water as well. I'm at the end of quite a long day. My days usually now start at about 5 a.m. or 4:30 and finish at about midnight. So, yeah, it's hectic, but it's really good.
You don't get a lot of sleep then. I think I'm poorly off because I have to get up at 6:30 to take my kids to school. Anyway, this is not really about us. This is about questions that our audience has cooked up for you. So I'm going to throw the first question at you. Are you ready?
I am.
Here we go. This one is from Zara K, who is the founder of Faithless Hijab. And it's coming up any minute now.
Yeah, Zara just recently joined our advisory council. She's brilliant. She's the founder of Faithless Hijabi and just fantastic.
I've recently blogged on the hijab issue in my Pathos, our Pathos. I could put a link to that up too.
Sure.
A couple of days ago I did that. So what are you going to say to this? How do you as an individual separate your activism and your views from the organization?
That's a very good question. I think this is something that I've taken a little longer than perhaps would be expected to transition to. I've always been very individualistic. I've always been a kind of lone gun atheist author, activist, and I've never really had to be accountable to anyone but myself. So in the past, I could use any language I wanted to use. I could be me 100%, and that's what people might call vulgar language included. In terms of representing now AAI, I'm not going to step back from challenges. I'm not going to step down and keep quiet where something is wrong or where someone is acting wrong. But I am going to deliver it in a way that is, I guess, more appropriate for me representing an organization such as Atheist Alliance International. And that's simply because Atheist Alliance International is a group of hardworking, predominantly volunteer workers who work harder than I do in most respects. And I work, like I said, from early morning to late at night. But these volunteers deserve representation that I think suits their sacrifice. And not only that, but given that we do have consultative status with the United Nations and participatory rights with the European Council, I guess I need to somewhat add a slight veneer to my somewhat gruff and confrontational personality. So I think that's one thing that I'm working on developing moving forward, if that makes sense.
It's difficult, though, isn't it? Because people don't distinguish. They don't distinguish between the private us and the employed us.
Mm.
That's
the thing. There is no private me anymore. Essentially, everything I do is watched very closely.
Yes.
And it was when I was just an author as well, to a certain extent. But I didn't care because I only had myself to answer to. I don't personally care what people think about me. I don't care at all, which is why I guess it makes me quite an aggressive atheist in some respects, which has its pros and its cons. But given now, as I said, that I am representing Atheist Alliance International moving forward, I think I and AAI could benefit from me being a little bit more, let's say, restrained in the vocabulary sense.
Yes, we're all responsible for the appearance of the organization. That is the trouble. Right. So here's
I think
another one.
John, before you go on, I think one of my drawbacks in that space as well is I'm very passionate about what I do, about atheist activism, particularly when it comes to helping atheists at risk. So I guess some of the triggers for me in those recent past events where I got into a bit of trouble were people who were deliberately harpooning our fundraisers to help people who were in serious trouble.
Yes.
That triggered me. With human rights abuses trigger me, and people who are privileged and attack, fundraisers that are out there to help people who are in desperate need, that triggered me. But I guess it's my learning experience that I need to develop a more softer approach to combating that.
And this is from an anonymous Facebooker, but it pertains to what you've just said, because some of our experiences from Twitter, and particularly the Twitter, have sort of attempted to torpedo our helping people like Mubarak Bala, who has been in prison since April the 28th in northern Nigeria and not even charged.
And again, with Mubarak's case, I've been in regular contact with Leo Igwe, but not as much as our Vice President, Bill Flavelle. Bill Flavelle has been working like a navvy. He's almost in Nigeria virtually. He's constantly working on Mubarak's case, on Yahaya's case, who's the 20-year-old Muslim gospel singer who's now on death row for blasphemy. On 13-year-old Umar Farouk's case, who's now got 10 years in jail for blasphemy potentially. And he committed this alleged crime when he was 12 years old just by using Allah's name in a derogatory way when he got angry with a friend, as kids do. So, I mean, Bill has been working tirelessly with our lawyers in Nigeria. And my job is to try and help raise funds for those lawyers so they can do their job. And the deliberate harpooning of those fundraisers and some of the, I guess, the background politics that goes on in the atheist movement that most people aren't privy to is quite dirty. And that's where I think I became quite abrasive and used language that you'd say maybe isn't appropriate. Yeah.
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? On the one hand, we have serious implications that could involve death. On the other hand, we have little people tweeting on Twitter and making little comments about the way you use words. It's an unbalanced scale, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what really upset me, is that we've got people sending Twitters off from their iPhones in their seat-warmed SUVs in the US and these privileged countries.
Yes.
Effectively torpedoing fundraisers for people like Yahaya, who's sitting in a horrible cell in northern Nigeria, in Kano, like Umar Farouk, like Mubarak. And it's just, for me, that's unacceptable behavior. But the way I need to react to that now, obviously, I've learned my lessons in that space.
Yes. There's a bigger question here, isn't there? You've mentioned 3 people in northern Nigeria who are being imprisoned, threatened with long sentences and hard labor or even execution for blasphemy. Now, blasphemy, who does it harm? Hey?
Well, it harms those who are convicted of blasphemy, is who it harms. I mean, if you need blasphemy laws, what that tells me is you have zero faith in your God, your deity, whoever. Because, and it's also, blasphemy is blasphemy. Blasphemy laws are blasphemy unto themselves. Because if you think about it, you're saying, well, I don't trust my God to enforce his laws, and it's always a him. I don't trust my God to enforce his laws. What we're going to do is we're going to usurp his power, and we're going to enforce the laws. I mean, how presumptuous that you would act on behalf of an all-powerful and all-knowing deity according to your own gospels and scriptures and so forth. I mean, how presumptuous can you be? Not only that, but how little faith do you have that the plan that your all-powerful, all-knowing God has will eventually yield the outcome that he wants? I mean, you obviously don't trust it, and that's why you have to put these man-made laws in place, because when you look at it, man-made gods will always require man-made laws to protect their man-made integrity. And that's just a fact. That's obvious to anyone with half a brain cell.
Yes. If a god had any real power, they wouldn't need men to defend them, would they? It's ridiculous.
No, and they'd be a bit better at fighting COVID as well, I reckon.
Yes, yes. Especially as the men are usually self-appointed.
Exactly.
So here's another question. Zara K is doing well with her questions. Coming right up. There we go.
There we go. Go for it.
How do you handle the challenges with apostates? These are people who've left a religion, and specifically ex-Muslims seeking asylum and limited resources. There's a difficulty there, isn't there? We would need enormous resources to be able to cope with all of those who need asylum because of the situation back home.
That's a real challenge at the moment, particularly when we have the economic crisis going on with COVID around the world. I've had to pull back on a lot of major fundraising due to, I guess, the sensitivities of people's economic status at the moment. It's very hard to ask people for money when they're suffering as well, economically, comparatively. But there are, I guess, people that are still doing quite well in developed countries who can afford to donate. And what I've seen is that for some people, even the COVID situation has improved their business economically and financially. So what I'm going to do is start stepping up those fundraising campaigns a little bit more. There are some organizations, some atheist organizations out there where you can't almost click on their website without being begged for money and everything like that. And I didn't want AAI to be like that. But at the same time, the balance of that is, well, how do we fund our lawyers in Nigeria? How do we fund the lawyers in Greece who are fighting against the religious class there in Greece? How do we operate around the world when our volunteers work for nothing, and they work, as I mentioned, extremely hard? But how do we then fund apostates? Like some of the ones we've had are horrible cases, Quran burning one, just terrible cases where they're being abused by family, like physically, mentally, emotionally. They're under threat from authorities. How do we get these people out of there? How do we support these people financially? The safe house we fund in Nigeria as well. How do we, I guess, fund these things if we're having to be too careful with our fundraising efforts as well, due to being sensitive for the COVID crisis and the economic impact of the COVID crisis? That's a real challenge at the moment. Now, apostates leaving Islam are the most fiercely persecuted apostates on the planet. And I would love nothing more than to have large donors hand us heaps of cash so that we have a bank ready-made sitting there so we can react to these things a lot faster, or so we can take a proactive approach to helping these people. At the moment, we are taking a reactive approach, and that strategy needs to change. So that's something I'm going to be looking at changing in the very near future.
What do you think of this, Michael? Atheists need an international organization with countrywide branches. That's us, isn't it?
We have that. Not only that, but Atheist Republic are very good in that space as well. They have their consulates all around the world, hundreds of consulates all around the world. They don't have the mechanisms in place that Atheist Alliance International have, the human rights connections to the UN Human Rights Council, etc. But they are very good in helping people network in that sense. And that's one of the aspects of our ASN team, our Atheist Support Network team as well. And here I should really give a shout out to Tina Hamilton, who is an amazing worker. Not just Tina, but there's Ben, who's just been promoted to Assistant Director of our Atheist Support Network, who's brilliant as well. Amin, all these guys, and I don't want to miss people's names out because I'll feel bad, but the team in our atheist support network who do operate countrywide in tons of countries around the world, in multiple aspects as well, not just financial support, not just helping people network, but emotional support, counseling, all these services that we're offering people. We operate countrywide, we operate globally, and we offer all these aspects of support for atheists at risk and who are suffering. So I think, we are that organization the person's asking about.
Absolutely. Tina, for the benefit of the viewers, is the director for our outreach, for dealing with people who are in difficult situations in other parts of the world. Now, I think everybody should know that Atheist Alliance International is international. We do have nearly 50 different affiliated organizations in other parts of the world. We're in every continent apart from Antarctica. The penguins aren't interested.
Not yet.
Not only that, but we have, as Michael said, we have consultative status with the UN, and we are recognized also by the EU Council. And we've recently been promoted from gold rating to platinum rating by GuideStar. Right, now here's another interesting question. Well, this person wants secularism. Religion and government should be kept separate, he says. It's not so much a question as a comment. When these two mix up, it leads to a lot of problems we see today. So, what's our strap line, Michael?
Well, obviously, there's so many examples of where when religion and politics mix, infamy and insanity are the outcome. Look at northern Nigeria at the moment as a current example. Look at Pakistan, even India now with the right-wing Hindu Bada movement. All across the globe. Look at Christian history. Let's go back in history. Look at the history of Christian governments when Christianity was in power, pre-Enlightenment. There's just too many examples to deny the reality that religion is a menace when it comes to coming into politics, and not just in that space as well. But yeah, we offer a campaign, or we're promoting a campaign to the UN directly called the Right to Be Secular campaign. It's a very important campaign. You can find it on our website. We need more signatures. Our interim president, Howard, was going to the UN to deliver that Right to Be Secular campaign speech just around the time COVID hit, which stopped him going to Geneva, unfortunately. But we are still very active in that space. And when travel bans lift, we'll be heading there again to deliver that speech to the UN. And we'll be working closely with the UN to push the right to be secular around the world, particularly in countries where we have quasi-theocracies and pure theocracies at play.
And the strapline, which can be seen on the logo that began this podcast and will end it, is "For a Secular World." So what about this one? What do you think of the recent accusation that atheism is somehow an expression of white supremacism? Oh, I've got a teeth here.
I love that question because it's a ridiculous notion. This is a notion that's been promulgated by wokeists, particularly in the US. And it first started coming about with Sam Harris's criticisms of Islam. There was a big reaction to Sam Harris's criticisms of Islam, and Richard Dawkins, who was just recently disinvited to another university for the fact that he does criticize Islam. And they used to be called the regressive left. Not many people use that term anymore. And I have written some essays when I was doing my master's degree on what they call quote unquote new atheism. I don't believe new atheism exists. I think it's a false title with no analytic value. But essentially the woke believe that it's okay to criticize Christianity and other quote unquote white people religions, which they're not. They're not white people religions. But it's not okay to criticize Islam and Hinduism and quote unquote brown people religions. And so what these wokeists tend to do is a bit of selective focus. And they say, well, look, that person, you criticize, you say you do 5 posts criticizing Christianity, you do 1 criticizing Islam. The thing that stands out for these wokeists is you're an Islamophobe. They've ignored the rest of your work. The fact that I personally have had 7 books published on religion. If you look at it, I'd say about 80 to 90% of the words in my books go against Christianity, yet I've been accused of being an Islamophobe more than I have of being a Christianophobe. The term doesn't even exist. So I think this whole notion of atheism is a white supremacist kind of ideology is rubbish. And not only that, but it marginalizes brown atheists and then relegates them to that quote unquote porch monkey status that was attributed to Majid Nawaz, who's not an atheist, he's a Muslim. But because he was supporting Sam Harris in Sam Harris's attacks on extremist Islam, he was called all these horrible things. And it's just this woke dogma that is just a quasi-political religion, in my opinion. It's rubbish.
Absolutely. And again, for the benefit of our audience, on our board, we have people of African origin, Indian origin, Pakistani origin. We're not a white supremacist organization at all. And we even accept Australians.
Yeah, even just recently, which is a bit of a mistake. But yeah, oh, sorry, I didn't know we had Africans and people of color in Atheist Alliance. I'm leaving. No, I mean, here's the thing, John. People are going to see you and I on screen. They're going to see only white representation. They're going to ignore all the other interviews you've done. They're going to ignore all of the people on our board. They're going to ignore the fact that we are supporting strong atheists like Leo Igwe, for example. Countless. Sanal Edamaruku, who's a brilliant Indian atheist, living in exile in Finland because he exposed miracles of the Catholic Church that were harmful to people, and they got charged with blasphemy and had to leave. Arup Chatterjee, who was the basis of Hitchens' documentary on Mother Teresa, another brilliant guy. I mean, people only see what they want to see. So they're going to see you and me and say, look, see proof. They're a white supremacist group. And that's what they're going to do.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, we've even got, heavens above, women.
I didn't know that. Oh, all right. No, that's fine. We've only got one, don't we? We've only got one woman, though.
No.
Or is there more than one?
We've got
more than one.
Yes. The whole organization is polluted by females.
No,
anyway, I've put up our website address so that people can actually go there and check out who's on the board of directors, look at the link to our podcast, our YouTube channel, which is also called Atheist Alliance International, and see who I've interviewed, for example. You'll find I've interviewed people from all sorts of background and all sorts of religion and both sexes. So here's another interesting question.
Actually, John, going back to what you said, you've recently let Australians join Atheist Alliance International. On the back of that, we've recently had affiliate with us the Australian Secular Party. So we're starting to enter Australian politics, which is very good because it's my neck of the woods. I have a major in political science, so that helps as well. I've got experience in campaigning politically as well, which is good for secularism here in Australia. And so I really look forward to working with John Perkins at the Secular Party there. So that's fantastic as well.
Yes, anything we can do to promote secularism.
Yeah, absolutely. In every country.
So, can you help the atheists of Pakistan to escape? So many atheists and freethinkers are living fearfully in Pakistan. That's a big job.
I've successfully helped one myself personally. A friend, I won't release his name for privacy's sake, but I offered testimony at his asylum trial. Well, I helped get him to New Zealand with reference letters and so forth when I was still living in Japan. We've known each other since 2016. And I recently offered testimony at his current asylum trial in New Zealand, and I worked with his asylum lawyer, who's a brilliant lawyer. And his asylum case, I'm happy to say, was successful. So he hasn't seen his son since his son was an infant, 0. His son's now 3 years old. So now that he's won his asylum case, he's looking at getting his wife and his kids to move from Pakistan, and they'll be allowed to go to New Zealand, hopefully. But I'm standing by with bated breath to find out the results of that. So at least we've got him safe. We've also... Yeah, I'll leave it at that case for now.
Well, this is a follow-on question. How to get involved in AAI? What would be the requirements? Well, you just go to our website and click on the tab that tells you how to become a volunteer or apply for the role of director, or go to our campaigns tab and find out what you can do to help out.
The best way, go to our website, click on get involved, click on membership, become a member, and then from there, let's see, what you can offer the organization and what we can offer you to develop yourself as an atheist activist as well, because it's a two-way street. So we can help you develop as an activist, and we can help you make real changes in the world, and you can help us by becoming a member. It's poetry.
There's power in numbers, isn't there?
There is.
So here's Ayrton D'Souza, who says, I don't believe in God, but when I see atheists posting offensive posts on social media against religious people hurting their feelings, is this the right way of atheism?
That's a really good question. There's pros and cons. One of the biggest deconverting influences was Christopher Hitchens, who was extremely unrelenting and unapologetic. If we want to go back in history as well, you see Thomas Paine as well. Paine was very antagonistic toward religion. Now, what people don't understand is a lot of people do understand this, but a lot of people still don't. There's a difference between attacking ideologies and attacking individuals. So if you attack a person based on their religion, you're a bigot. That's just a fact. If you attack an ideology because it's got harmful doctrines, or you can see that it's producing harm, you're a rationalist. You're a humanist. You're a person who cares about human rights over human beliefs. So also you have to think about free speech. That free speech is more important than people's feelings. I'm sorry to say this. It's not more important than people's safety. So if you're in a crowded, cinema and you shout fire, that's free. You're freely expressing yourself, but that's done so in a manner that can cause imminent danger, and therefore there should be restrictions placed on that speech. Having said that, hurting someone's feelings by criticizing their beliefs, I guess, how far do you want to take that? So would we make it illegal to hurt atheists' beliefs by criticizing evolution, the theory of evolution, given that most atheists are proponents of the theory of evolution? Should that be illegal? Who would you elect to govern your own speech? So is there someone who you would say, all right, I trust that person enough, I'm going to let them legislate how I speak? No, there's probably not. So freedom of speech is paramount. So I think if people get offended, that's their own business to resolve. And getting offended is nothing more than experiencing cognitive dissonance. And while there are, there can be negative mental health effects to always experiencing cognitive dissonance, but at the same time, there's a positive benefit, and that is you start to learn coping mechanisms, and you start to learn that you're not the center of the universe, and your opinions and beliefs are not sacred. They're up for debate. They're up for mockery and ridicule. Ridicule my beliefs and opinions. I don't care, because I don't think I'm the center of the universe. So I think if you're a humble person, you won't be offended by someone attacking your beliefs and ideas. What you'll do is you will engage and say, all right, well, this is what I think. What do you think? And let's have a battle of ideas without getting offended. If you get offended, you're already showing people that you are arrogant, in my opinion.
Who was it said, if you find out who you are not allowed to criticize, then you've found out who controls you?
Voltaire.
Was it? Yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah. So the problem with offense is it's taken very often more than it's given. We can say something which doesn't sound offensive when it leaves our mouths, but somehow or other, when it reaches the ears of the person at the other end, they decide that it's some reason for them to take offense. Well,
and what's funny is they're like diodes. And diodes, the currency only flows one way, right? So they're free to preach their gospels and things that criticize individuals, human beings who are members of the LGBTQ community. They're free to preach all that and to stand behind doctrines and ideologies that hurt real people and infringe on human rights. And no problem with that. But as soon as you say, hey, that's unacceptable, they're like, oh, you're hurting our religious feelings. Too bad.
I think the root of this is in the fact that they don't really have any firm foundation for their belief system. For example, nobody would complain if I said that, what shall I say, gravity is not true. If I said the force of gravity is not true, people would think I'm crazy because the evidence is strongly in favor of the force of gravity being an actual reality. But those people don't have such an evidential foundation. What they have is a belief system, which is a matter of choice, really. I mean, if they'd been born in a different part of the world, they might have a different belief system. So not having any evidence means they can only defend it emotionally, and that's why they take offense if we challenge it.
Exactly, and they live with cognitive dissonance every day because they're living by these beliefs that they can see at some level of consciousness is coming into conflict with reality. Because the more that science increases, the more knowledge we're getting, the more credible arguments against their religion they experience on a daily basis, which creates that cognitive dissonance, which makes someone much more prone to offense, I think, as well.
Well, Michael, I think we've possibly answered all the questions that have been coming in so far today. Maybe we should draw it to a close and look forward to another session in the near future.
Yeah, let's do this monthly, shall we?
Yeah, okay. And we'll post adverts for it on Facebook and Twitter and other places so that other people can join in next time. So, thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, viewers. Thank you very much for your questions and comments. Please continue to like and subscribe and tell your friends about our channel and our Facebook postings and everything about us. My Pathos blog page as well. So we've got links to all these things in the comments, and they will be under the podcast when this stops being live streamed. Here we go with the outro.
See you later.
See you.